So for step 12, we're going to be working on the axle shafts. So these are going on either side of the axle, which you can see on the next step how this is going to fit into the locked differential that we just put together. So there's one on either side. So on this one, we need to put the bearings, and of course I've got them there. They're replacing the plastic bushings that come with the kit, same with that bearing right there. So we're going to put those in and then work on the other side, do the same thing, and then we're going to work on the rear propeller joint, which is this gear right here, which again is going to fit into there in the next step and connect to the lock differential that we put together in the previous step. Now you'll see that they're showing the grease and that's going to be on those axles, and because I'm putting the bearings in, I am actually this time around going to put a little bit of grease on that, just because that's all going to be enclosed into the axle when we're finished. And as it's not as easy to get to, I think I'm just going to grease them anyway. I know typically when I'm using ball bearings I don't, but I think in this particular case I would prefer to do that. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm just going to set this up and we'll get to work. So let's work on this one first, just as it's shown right there. And we have an E-clip that we need to get onto here, so let's do that. So if I grab the E-clip here, I'm just going to push it on a little bit just so I have an idea as to where it'll go, plus it'll stick a little bit. So we'll click on. There we go. So there we go. There is our E-clip in place. And now, so for this part, it's showing this, which is kind of interesting. There's a little piece called D14, which you can see has a square side to it. For now, it doesn't really matter. We're just going to slide that on just as it shows. That goes first, and then we're going to be sliding on a bearing just like that. Now, because I said I was going to put a little bit of grease on, I am going to do it right here. Rub that all around, and then I'll slide the bearing on. So that's essentially what it's going to look like. Now on this side, we don't exactly know, but we have a pretty good idea. I will just sort of grease up approximately there. I'm not too worried about it yet. I might move stuff around because obviously that's going to sit somewhere on there, but we don't know exactly. But there we go. I could pull out the axle, but I'm not going to bother on this step. So there is that finished axle half. We've got it all done. So now we can grab the other one, and same idea. We've got to put an E-clip on there. So if I look at this again, make sure that it's correct. Yes, we have it on that side. So I'll grab this. There we go. It's now nicely in place. So same again, now that we know that, we're going to grab this piece right here, slide it over. I know that the bearing's going right after that, so I'll just give it a little bit of grease. And we'll slide that bearing on there. So that's how that side's going to look to match that up. And then on this side, same idea. We don't exactly know, doesn't matter. I'll just give it a little bit of grease. If need be, I'll add a bit more or move it around and slide it on. And there we go. So there is the other half. So we've got both the axle halves ready to go. So now what's left is the rear propeller joint. So again, same idea. We need to put the E-clip on here. So, oops. Oh, there it is. So let's just get that on a little bit here, make sure it's mostly there. And we'll grab the pliers and squeeze. This one seems to not want to go on as easy, but that's okay. E-clips are fun. And I'm being sarcastic. Just need to get this level here. Come on. Well, for some reason this guy's not cooperating. Come on. It should, because it's practically the same thing. There. So now that the E-clip is on, we've got a bearing that's got to go on there again. So I'll put a little bit of grease on there. And I'll turn it around here. We put the bearing on there, so it's fitting right against the E-clip. Then on this side, we've got the gear. So that's going to slide on just like that, a half moon. And we've now going to have a little bit of grease because that's the smaller 850. So I will put a little bit on the bottom here. And we're going to slide that smaller 850 bearing on top of that. Perfect. So that is what that looks like when it's finished. And then of course we have the 2 axle halves that we just built. So the 2 axle halves plus that gear are finished. So that is step 12. Relatively simple to put together. So now we're going to move on to step 13 and attach the rear differential and get the rear axle put together.